and welcome to all our viewers. We'll be right back very soon. We are just having some technical difficulties, and we'll hopefully be back very soon for the players' launch. And it's another Saturday, in fact, another Sunday, still living in yesterday's work. And we have our 4 guests, and we are still waiting for 2 others to join as well. But we'll be back very soon as we clear out the technical issues. Please be online with us. Hello and welcome once again to Players Lounge on Asia Rugby for a special Sunday. And we just have some technical difficulties in connecting. It's pouring down in Colombo, and also former Sri Lanka captain guest joining from Kandy. And here they are, as you can see. Let's start with the current guest that we have. Gentlemen, thank you very much to be sure. Let me introduce Daniel Chow, former captain of Singapore rugby team, and also currently the general manager. And we can certainly talk a lot about life after rugby with regard to Daniel's current position. And Fazil Marij, on the other hand, captain Sri Lanka 7s and 15s for a long time, and also played for Asian Barbarians team in 2011 along with George Reagan, Justin Marshall, to name a few. And of course, he's coaching the champions team in Kandy. The team where he played for a decade, a long decade, and he managed to captain and coach, and on his very first coach stint, Kandy became the defending champion in Lanka. Good afternoon, good evening, gentlemen. Daniel, if I just pose the first question to you. Thank you very much once again coming for the show. Is rugby more fun during the playing days or when you retire?
Well, first, thanks so much for inviting me to the show. No, rugby is definitely more fun playing for sure. Without a doubt. I'm sure Fazil will agree with that as well.
This is how Daniel's career started. I think Daniel, you captained Singapore 2004, 5, 6, if I'm not mistaken. Since you took over this general manager post last year, there's not much activities happen in Singapore, and also especially one of the world's 7th circuit has been postponed in Singapore. How tough is that to manage all of this?
Yeah, it's been really, really challenging for us. I think, first of all, without the 7s that was supposed to be in April and then postponed to October and then eventually cancelled altogether. I think, that was always a good platform for Singapore rugby to demonstrate its visibility to the country, and also, to expose ourselves to a high level of rugby. From a domestic rugby point of view, we try to do a lot of training within restriction measures, so like in groups of 5, so players working on their strength and fitness and some basic skills, but it's increasingly becoming more challenging because there's only that much you can do in the kind of small groups and the kind of limitations. So the coaches and the high performance teams really have to think of very, very creative ways to have their players engaged, and then interested, with all sorts of, using all sorts of stuff like videos and taking a bit of the games that are happening now in Australia and New Zealand and some in Europe. So yeah, hopefully we get some of the restrictions lifted soon and start to do more work on the field. But yeah, I can imagine the situation is really tough and also really difficult job for authorities to handle. So something we have to respect here.
Yeah, we'll hope that rugby will be back on track. Fazil, Marij, coming back to you. How is quarantine and the lockdown treating you? I'm sure it's not lockdown in Kandy. How is life for you, Fazil? Was it really interesting when you're playing, or was it really interesting when you started coaching?
I think lockdown first thing in lockdown is I think we don't have lockdown in Candy so far. It's all right in Candy. So and coming back to playing or coaching, I think like Daniel said, playing is more fun than coaching because I only think about myself when I'm playing, and now I have to think about 30 players to get them prepared. So it's really stressful.
Absolutely, indeed, it's stressful, but
enjoyable as well. So it's
absolutely, indeed. Let's see. But just reflecting for your that decade-long history playing Fazil, I'm sure Daniel Chow is also a friend of you. You all have played each other quite often. How was the effect during your playing days, especially when you played Singapore and the rest of the Asian teams?
sorry, I can't hear you.
Yeah, I found that there is a small echo. I'm sorry. You have played along with Daniel quite a lot. Against Singapore.
When I was captaining, he was the captain of Singapore when I was captaining Sri Lanka. So we meet each other a lot during the games and off the field as well.
Yeah.
If you can tell three things that you learned from rugby, Fazil.
Sorry?
If you can tell us three things that you learned from rugby, I'm sure there's plenty of things you learned. If you can just explain us three things mainly.
Sorry, I can't hear it. Line is breaking.
Fazil, if you can explain three things for us that you learned from rugby.
Hello, is it for hello?
Yeah.
Oh, looks like he dropped off, I think.
Fazil, are you there? All right, Daniel, I'll come to you until we get Fazil back. If you just can tell us three things that you learned from rugby. I'm sure there's more than three things just to inspire the next generation out of your comments.
I think three things for me would be respect, respect for teammates, respect for seniors, individuals, perseverance, always on the field, never giving up, and humility, even in victory, or even when you're playing well, always be humble, always something to learn from everyone. So those are the three things from me.
Nice. Respect, humility, and perseverance. Fazil, I asked the question before. If you can tell us three things that you learned from rugby for our fans.
Three things will be for me. It's discipline, number one, and determination and friendship. I think for the younger generation, I say friendship because no matter we fight each other, we smash each other in the field, but after 80 minutes, we all friends. So that's the beauty of I think rugby. So it's like last 2 weeks, New Zealand and Australia. So they just hammer each other after the game. They have a beer and laugh, and so it's about that for me.
Absolutely, friendship is key. That's right. We'll have all things are during the playing field, but when it comes off the field, yes, a friendship what we take along in your rugby career, that's what make rugby different, especially when it comes to the contact sports. The former All Black will join us very soon. I'm not sure whether he's disappointed after the loss yesterday. He is also living in Brisbane, so we'll get him online very soon. And before we get him, Daniel, if you can tell us, not only for rugby, now Singapore is very keen in other sports, especially when they compete into Olympics. If you can just enlighten us on how the Singapore government and the sports government is acting ahead of the next Olympics in Tokyo.
Yeah, I think it's a really challenging situation for them. But I think for the Singaporean Olympians, we have a few medal potentials, hopefully. So, and most of them are, of course, our swimmers, and I think there are other guys in table tennis and possibly badminton as well. So, from what I understand, some of these athletes are training overseas, some are training in Singapore, and they I mean, the government, we've had made special arrangements for them. And I think thankfully, well, just by the situation, most of them are individual sports. So they were still able to carry out their training as per normal. So I think the government is, still trying our very best to prepare the athletes as best as we can.
Absolutely, indeed. Also, you were mentioning as soon as you were appointed as the GM of Singapore Rugby Union, Daniel, you're going to implement a lot of scientific training, and you're talking about the high performance and its importance. If you can just elaborate that.
Yeah, I think especially in Singapore and the way the kids are being brought up, and like the use of computers, phones these days. I think it was very important for me to try to get our high performance teams to start using some of the technologies that I do feel that will help us in our coaching, to make us more quantitative, to make us more to be more precise on what we need to work on and what exactly the players need to do to get to the standards required. So it's not telling a player, oh, you're not good enough, but maybe cutting like 10 videos of their training sessions and sending it to the players, and they can give their feedback, back and forth. I think this makes for a much more productive way of learning, and as well in Singapore, because we don't get to see the players all the time, especially those senior level players who are working, who are studying. So I think making use of the latest video sharing and video analysis technology will really help us in terms of coaching.
Wonderful, Daniel. Thank you for that insight. We'll ask Fazil about high performance, but before that, let's welcome the All Black or the former All Black number 1043, Rico Gear. Thank you very much for joining us this show. I thought after the loss yesterday, you were a bit of disappointment and had a bit more points.
Yeah, hey man, can you hear me okay?
All good, yeah.
All good.
Yeah, no, I actually went up to the game last night in Brisbane, and funnily enough, I actually felt that the Wallabies, they actually had a chance heading into the game, purely because Brisbane hasn't been, great for the All Blacks in the past. The last time the All Blacks played here 3 years ago, they lost. And I guess having played the Wallabies, 3 times already, there's always that chance of a little bit of complacency. So I wasn't necessarily surprised by the result, but you're certainly not happy about it, that's for sure.
Also, I just want to ask about your red card incident, Rico. What do you think about that? Especially with the modern days, tackle technique and player welfare comes first. Your personal opinion, yeah.
You talk about the red cards?
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, it's just one of those tough ones where, I mean, I certainly don't like to, see red cards being pulled out. Safety is really important. So, we can't have I guess, any contact with the head area. So I think, the guys have to take responsibility around that. I just think they can probably police that area a lot better in some sort of reporting system. I think sure maybe use the yellow cards, but I'm not really sure about the red cards, especially at that level when you've got two elite teams. I think it becomes one-sided. So I'd love to see something change there.
Absolutely, indeed. All our viewers, that is Rico Gear, the Commonwealth Games gold medalist 1998 and 20 caps under the Great All Blacks. So we'll come back to you, Rico. Fazil, coming back to you. Daniel was talking about the high performance and the importance, Fazil. During your era, the college era, 2015, you captain, and then you were playing for Sri Lanka National when you were 17 years. How do you see the high performance level and the importance in the modern world of rugby?
Yeah, no, it's certainly anything as we've seen, it's certainly advancing. You're seeing that the athlete now are certainly more, they're a lot bigger, they're a lot stronger. Certainly, a little more powerful for sure. That just comes with the technology that's available now, and then you keep that alongside the advances in, I guess, supplementation and nutrition. I think you've got a lot more of a physical, specimen nowadays, which means the contacts are going to be a lot harder. So, you're going to get more injuries, and I guess, that's where that high tackle rule comes in. We certainly got to be careful around that. But no, it's certainly, you can look at the athletes that are being produced today.
Yes, indeed. That's some insights for the high performance. Fazil, Marij, I also asked the same question. If you can just talk about the high performance where you played, you started your rugby in 2005, 15 years ago, and how do you see the importance, especially in Sri Lanka? Marij?
Well, the world has changed dramatically, and for when I started and now, it's a huge difference. I think the rugby has got faster and more physical. So as high performance players are a huge role in like players and development. Every other country is investing huge on finance and high performance. I think for Sri Lanka is very important that they have to look into these high performance things, so we can take another few steps up in rugby. So
absolutely, indeed. And there we go. We got Tom Varndell in line, online. Tom, thanks for joining. You're joining from Leicester. Tom, former England player and Wasp and Leicester Tigers. We'll talk to you. We have on the show Fazil, Marij, Rico, the All Black, Daniel Malcho of Singapore. Then coming back to you with the point Rico made, Daniel. Where do you see Singapore rugby growing? There's so many women's participation into the game, and they're growing the game. Where do you see the men's coming in?
I think right now we are focusing a lot on our clubs. I think in the past, the union and the clubs haven't really been too in sync or aligned with our plans and programs, and we've always had a strong tradition in a few of the schools in the men's game. The women's game certainly has picked up over the last few years. I think not just in Singapore, I think globally, and and we see that trend going on. We hope it continues. But for the men's game, well, for the women's game as well, we really start to look at the clubs and how the clubs can be more aligned with what the national team needs, and basically playing professionally on the field is not just the athletes on the field, but the whole structure around how the clubs are run and how the union is run as well. So hopefully we're trying. It's kind of work in progress in the meantime, and we're trying to get these processes sorted. So once we get these structures right, I think we have more meaningful participation in Singapore.
Absolutely, we hope for that. We're talking about life after rugby. Tom Varndell, how is your life have been after rugby? We know you are the highest try scorer in the Premiership rugby history, And Rico, I know you played a stint at Worcester Warriors as well. Tom, you have 92 tries. Chris Ashton is closing down in terms of tries, just 4 shy of it. Tom, how's your life after rugby?
Well, obviously, I finished playing last season, and literally as I finished playing, COVID came into play. So it's been an interesting time so far. Obviously, navigating myself through the life, not training, not being used to training all the time, not being around teammates all the time. It's been difficult. It's been a bit of a shock to the system. But obviously, I've gone into the sports agency world now, working for a company called EAM. So I'm still around the game. I'm still talking to players. I've still got that, I suppose, that player interaction. But I miss the training. I miss the playing every single day. And yeah, it was a massive part of my life for a long time. I think 20 years I was playing professional rugby nearly. So to not have that as part of your daily schedule has been tough, actually.
Did you watch the All Blacks Australian match by any chance yesterday?
Sorry, say that again?
Did you watch the All Blacks game yesterday?
Yes, yeah, really good. I mean, for me, I watch rugby every weekend as much as I can. Obviously, COVID's stopped a lot of the games being played, but no, I love the game. I love watching it. And when you see, I mean, the All Blacks yesterday with the 2 red cards, or the red cards in the game, it was a bit of a, it wasn't as entertaining as it was the week before when the All Blacks were just absolutely dominating. And when you see the All Blacks playing like that, that's what it's all about. They just play such good rugby.
Absolutely, indeed. Rico, you were on the ground, and it was not the expected results you mentioned. And you are doing, since you retired, a lot of rugby activities, and you are doing a brand ambassador role, and you are talking about developing a rugby app along with the NBA coach. Can you just tell us and all our Asia Rugby viewers that what sort of module that you're going to bring it on to the table?
Yeah, so I live out here in Australia on the Gold Coast, so still involved with rugby. I've been coaching for about 5-6 years now. I'm at Bond University, so that's going really good. But yeah, during obviously the COVID period, I've teamed up with a good friend from Brisbane, and we've basically developed a rugby app, iPhone and Android. It's got built-in artificial intelligence, so we'll probably launch it next year. But what's really cool about that is it's going to, we're going to be able to push that around to the rugby playing nations around the globe. But it's going to just be all your basic, catch, pass, idea, different techniques. And the artificial intelligence is basically going to help, the individual, I guess, improve and get better, with the different tools that required to play rugby. So it's something that's pretty exciting. And it's also going to be really good. A lot of I guess if you look at, the kids and teenagers that might not have access to good coaching or good facilities. So, it's certainly seen as a good thing.
Great. We hope and look forward for that app and how it is and how it's going to be helpful for all the rugby lovers and the coaches and the players. Fazil, being there in Sri Lanka, and the Sri Lanka school rugby setup, it is one of the world class. If it's not, I don't know whether Rico and Tom are aware of Sri Lanka school rugby. I'm sure Daniel, you would have known that about for sure. Fazil, if you can tell how are the boys reacting in terms of school rugby have been cancelled in the island?
Yeah, I think 2020 school season has been cancelled, and I think the players are a little bit disappointed because the last year players they want to have a contract with the clubs, and they were a little bit disappointed. And Union was trying to put a tournament under 24. Then after that, the second wave came in, COVID, so it cancelled as well. So it's been very tough year for last year boys in Sri Lanka.
And Daniel, how is the club situation? We saw recently Singapore started playing rugby, and how is the development process and the schools rugby coming into the game?
Yeah, I think similar to what is happening in Sri Lanka, I think the the school rugby season has been cancelled for the year, and still trying to figure out when it can start next year and what sort of format and what sort of restrictions and measures we can put to place. So yeah, I think it's the same. The boys and I think the school administrators are also really disappointed. Yeah, there's a big school history tradition in rugby, so it's always a game that or a season that the old boys like us look forward to watching as well. So just all round really disappointing, and really hope that things start to improve and we can get on next year.
Rico, you're based in Gold Coast. You said based in Brisbane. You're working with and coaching along with so many Australians. And looking at the current setup, the Wallaby setup, there's so many youngsters coming in. Where do you see from your training academy or grassroots rugby coming in and young talents coming into this Wallaby setup, especially your coaching involvement?
Yeah, I mean, there's plenty of talent here in Australia. They probably just struggle at their grassroots level a little bit in terms of numbers. You can put them, with a lot of other elite sports within Australia, like the likes of AFL and rugby league, of course, is strong here. So rugby's not necessarily the top sport here, so that's always a challenge. But they do have a very strong club system throughout, Queensland and New South Wales. So I think next year they're looking at revamping the structure of the club system. We're going to get the school boys sort of funneling through there into a bit of a meaningful competition. So I think that's going to be a pretty good sort of pathway to improving their rugby sort of from a schoolboy level and just giving them a clear sort of track to run on. The other thing that I've noticed out here is rugby's it's a private schoolboy game out here. And the other thing is they don't play many games of rugby. So, that's challenging in itself. So they need to be playing more rugby, at a higher level, more throughout the year. So I think when they can start sort of doing that, then I think we'll probably see the Wallabies becoming a bit more consistent, with a top side.
Yes, indeed. They could have been a top side. They were a top side indeed. I just want to ask both Rico and Tom, you two played in the wing. What was your Broncos like during your playing days? What was your Broncos like?
So my sound's terrible. Say that again, Samir.
What I want to ask this to Rico and Tom. You both played in the wing. I just want to know your speed test. How was your Bronco?
See, I never did a Bronco. I was so lucky. They did bring the Bronco in when I was playing. It's only come in I think the last couple of seasons. So yeah, luckily I never did that. I just did the old school bleep test. So I escaped the Bronco, thank God. But I've seen it in action and it looks horrible.
Rico, you want to add something to that?
Yeah, no, I'm clearly too old, so I kind of missed the boat with the Bronco. But they're streaming a show back in New Zealand at the moment where there's a whole lot of old rugby players that played for the All Blacks, and they're playing a game in 8 weeks' time. And those boys had to do a Bronco, and I know it would have been the first time for a lot of them. And I think that the fastest that they ran was like 6 minutes 20 or something. So if I ever have to run one, if I can get under 6 minutes 20, I'll be pretty happy.
I think for me and Rico, like when we first started out, rugby training wasn't as scientific. It was all about the coach telling you to run and how far, and you just keep going. So yeah, I suppose we were lucky in some ways because obviously some of the tough stuff the guys have to do now is pretty tough, but there was some absolutely ridiculous training we had to do. Like there was no rhyme or reason behind it at all. It was just run and keep running until you pass out, I think.
Absolutely, indeed, Daniel. That's what you mentioned. That scientific, sports, science in sports have been playing an immense role in the modern day of rugby. And as a general manager of Singapore Rugby, you are telling to all the Singaporeans and the rest of the Asia that you want to involve science into rugby in terms of growing the game and the competition level. If you want to add something of even you played in the same career like as Tom and Tom, in fact, yes.
Yeah, I think I totally agree with Tom. Like, I think in the past, some of these coaches, like really old school, right? Like, you just keep running, and if the training wasn't tough, then you didn't really have a good training. And a lot of times you see a lot of athletes, especially in Singapore, because we're not professional, so they don't necessarily have the resources to have the proper recovery, proper physiotherapy and stuff like that. And then a lot of these kids, they burn out. They play good rugby until like they're 17, 18 years old, and then after that they don't really continue, or they get really bad injuries and they never recover from it. So I think, yeah, it's just we got to evolve along with the rest of the world if we want to compete. I think in Asia, things are really getting competitive, and in countries that have just picked up rugby or have just started getting serious in rugby, like even like in the Philippines, even Thailand, Malaysia, these countries are getting really good as well. So it's not just the world that's got to move. I think even in Asia, we've really got to move forward with this.
Yes, indeed. Fazil, Marij, you are into a new role, coaching. You already coach Candy, and you won, like I mentioned before. You also had a stint with Asian Barbarians, Fazil. How wonderful opportunity for you as a Sri Lankan, and where do you see who are the upcoming players can join in such a big team for the Asian Barbarians?
Hello. Sorry, I didn't hear you.
Fazil, you
Hello.
played for
Sorry.
Asian Barbarians. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
You played for Asian Barbarians in 2011, along with George Gregan, along with Justin Marshall, and to name a few legends. How lucky you are to be in that, and also if you can tell us, can any Sri Lankan in the future can participate in such a activity?
I think I met Rico at Barbarians. He was also playing there. So I'm lucky enough to play with two from up. I think Regan and Justin Marshall, and Rico was there. Then Roy Kinigalawa, the few legends of rugby. So I was really lucky, and maybe that tournament is my, I think, highlight of my career. What is the other question you asked, Shabir?
Which Sri Lankan current Sri Lankan player can join the Barbarians?
I think there are a few. I think Narushka Ranjan, he can play the wing also, and there are maybe Buonaka Dangamur, he can play. So Roshan, definitely. Those three, I think they can play. They have the skill to play there.
Absolutely, yes, absolutely. They have been a great servant. Rico and Tom, from your industrial international career, if I ask you, what are the three main things that you want to pick up? That three main things. There are so many skills that you have learned, I'm sure. If you can name three skills and why are those skills so important?
For international rugby, to achieve your goals, international rugby, what three skills?
Yes.
I think for me, it's not always about. Yeah, I think the difference between like a Premiership or a Championship or an international player, differences are so small. I think it comes down to more consistency in performance. It's all well and good being good for one game, one-off games, but at international, you're consistent every single week. Your attitude has to be on the ball every single time. You can't drift out games. At levels below, you probably get away with that now and again. But at international level, the margins for error are so small, and that's what costs you a game. But for me, it's consistency in performance, in everything you do. The way you go, the way you defend, the way you attack. You've got to be 100% accurate all the time, because if you throw one bad pass, it normally leads to a try or a turnover. One bad kick in the game, team comes back and score a try. So for me, it's consistency in performance. It's what sets you apart from being a Premiership player or a Championship player, and makes you into a world-class Premiership international player.
Rico, how about you?
Yeah, just obviously, Tom covered that really well, and 100%, consistent performance. And the big thing that I took from Tom was the accuracy. And that's the difference between, playing Premiership or Super Rugby and playing international level. You can't afford to make mistakes. So it's that whole decision making process and focus you have on, do I run or do I pass? Do I kick or do I not kick? So you've got to be really sharp and make the right decision at the right time. And I think if you can do that at the level that you're at and do that on a regular, consistent basis, then that's probably your best opportunity and best pathway to playing international rugby. Because at the end of the day, it comes down to trust. And if the coach trusts you, and I know you're not going to make judgmental errors, and you're going to be accurate, then you're giving yourself a good chance to take the next level.
Yes, indeed. We are really sorry for all our viewers. We are having technical difficulties in connecting today. Actually, it's been pouring down here. And before we wrap up, Rico, do you have enough mojo? Would you like to teach Asia Rugby Fraternity about, to show your haka for like 30 seconds? Do you mind?
Which haka?
Being a New Zealand Maori, you have led the haka as well, and that gives you a great inspiration and great moment to carry on in your life. So you led the haka a few times we have seen, and if you can just teach us, taking 30 seconds.
I'll just talk about the haka. As you probably noticed, New Zealand had come up to the haka for 100 years, and then the All Blacks transitioned into a new haka, which is called Papa Ponga. So I was fortunate enough. I think we did that new haka for the first time in 2000. I think it was 2004, 2005 maybe, down in Dunedin. And it was actually guys like Richie McCaw and that who actually wanted something that was a bit more modern and more relatable to the current All Blacks. So Kapa o Pango became the new version, which, because if you look at the All Blacks, it's very multicultural. So we had to figure out a way and how can we bring that together. So we brought that through, the haka Kapa o Pango. And there's a lot of meaning. It talks about, what we represent, our ancestors, the players that have been before us, the jersey family. So it combines all of that, different cultures. And then as you see, the All Blacks will only bring that haka out generally, I guess, when they feel they need that one the most, to try and really get them up to that next level. But having a look at the weekend, they actually performed Kapa o Pango against the Wallabies, and it actually didn't help them at all. So they might have to go back to the drawing board.
There you go. That's your game against Wales. I think you scored a hat trick in this. If you can just take us through this, Rico.
Yeah. I mean, what a fan, as Tom would know, what a great ground to play a bit of rugby at the Millennium Stadium. I didn't have to do much for those tries, to be fair. I just had to catch the ball and run into the corner. So, when you got guys like Dan Carter and Aaron Major and very skillful players that, again, we talk about making the right decisions. It was pretty easy, when we look at it.
Yeah, it certainly looked easy. Tom, finally from you, how important is you said you have a role with elite athlete management and you're working on players' welfare first. How paramount is players' welfare? Tom, you're on mute.
Sorry, can you hear me now?
Yep, perfect.
Yeah, it's massive. Obviously, the modern, the professional game is big business these days. It's very easy for players to be treated like as commodities rather than individuals. I wanted to go into the sports agency world to try and change that, to try and obviously to help the players with their careers, both on and off the pitch, but also to make sure the players had someone to turn to when things don't go so well. Because when a player's form drops or they get an injury, you do become isolated. You do become, so it can become quite a lonely place sometimes in professional sport because it is such a competitive industry. And for me, it was about creating a support network alongside being a sports agent as well, and dealing with the players, the business side of it. And yeah, I think that's what we're doing. It needs to be part of the game as well, a game I love. It allows me to help bring youngsters through the game as well, so they can reach the top and actually share my experiences of the game. And so far, I'm really enjoying it. Obviously, it's a difficult time for everyone, globally. But the players I'm working with at the moment, I'm really enjoying doing it. And I think we're doing some good stuff as well. So welfare, like I say, it is massive. There's a lot of guys who are out there doing welfare. We've got the RPA in England. I'm sure New Zealand have got their own version as well. But it is important that the players get their support, because otherwise they can become quite isolated. It can be quite a scary place sometimes because it is such a big business to be a part of now.
Thank you for enlightening us on the player welfare. Thank you very much, gentlemen. I know we are having a poor coverage. We apologize to all our viewers once again on behalf of this internet issue that we are going through for the last 40 minutes. I just want to thank you all for joining us even a little later. Thank you very much, Tom Varndell. Thank you very much, Rico here. Fazil, Marij, thank you very much for joining. And Daniel Mark Chow, thank you very much, General Manager of Singapore Rugby. And we wish you all the very best for your new career, which is rugby after playing careers, and you're going into a new career. Tom with EAM, Fazil with coaching, Daniel as GM, and Rico with all the best with your coaching and the app that you're going to bring along for rugby. Thank you very much on behalf of Asia Rugby, and we'll speak to you soon, gentlemen.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers, man.